Can I ask a quick question, Ryan?
Yep.
So, since my ceremony last Sunday, I find my sits, um, it's hard for me to develop concentration. So if I'm doing shamatha on the breath, I don't have the typical continuity of attention and concentration that I would have. However, I'm not necessarily vexed by it. So whereas before I would put a lot of effort into it and I'd be efforting and being able to maintain concentration and attention on it, but I felt the effort, whatever, like, if it's like an engine, I could feel the engine going. Now, my mind, I guess it's risk, but it's not as single pointedly uh, concentrated. But again, I'm okay with that to the extent that I don't feel effort, I don't feel non-effort, I feel um, an ease. Uh, but I don't know what that means in terms of my meditation practice. So, do you recommend that I just, again, you often say doing, not doing, rest, um, and that seems to be what's happening. Again, I'm resting in awareness again, but it's not as concentrated as it was. But I don't know if that's progress. I don't know if that's means I have to put the pedal to the metal a little bit more. Um, so I'm going to do an extended. I'm going to do the meditation retreat with Steven Schneider. I missed it last week, so I'm going to do it on my own. I'll meditate over the course of 6 hours, number. But I'm not concerned. I'm just wondering as I'm doing it because he emphasizes concentration, shamatha on various, usually breath, anapanasati.
Right.
So I'll do that, but um, you understand what I'm sort of
Yeah, yeah.
looking for
I get what you're
clarity
saying.
around.
Yeah. So let's unpack the word concentration, right? Um, with concentration, there can be a threshold that needs to be passed, and that can require effort to reach that threshold. So the threshold of concentration is when you become locked with the meditation object, you become locked with the breath or with the image at the center of the body or whatever the object is. So that that locked in or that immersion into the object, um, there's different ways that can be entered. So generally, the one that is presented to people is to just like keep your mind on the object and not move, especially in the tradition that you're talking about, the Pa'ak tradition. It's really just like just keep your mind on that spot, and it's the only thing that matters. Don't let your mind go anywhere else. So quite a bit of depends on the person, but quite a bit of force may be required to reach that threshold of being locked in for the most part, and not deviating from the meditation object. But I think to consider too is that concentration is a fabricated state. So that means when you have the appropriate conditions for the arising of concentration, you're on a retreat, you're not doing much, you're not using your phone, you're not talking. Those conditions allow for a deep concentration to arise. And the fact that your concentration is down, but it's not bothering you, that's indicative that you've let go to a certain degree, and you're allowing this to unfold. There's only a certain amount, really, there's only a certain amount of concentration you can even expect if you're not meditating 2 or 3 hours a day and remaining silent most of the time. So it's not even, in my opinion, is not really something to be particularly concerned about. Um, Concentration, like the other factors of the Eightfold Path, the other parts of the enlightenment factors, uh, can go up or down. You know, you can have more continuity of mindfulness, less continuity of mindfulness, deeper levels of concentration, uh, concentration that's not as developed or not as strong. So for your daily practice and for what um, your practice is oriented towards at this moment, what's more important, in my opinion, is letting go and equanimity. Like, even though your concentration is down, or quote down, it's not as strong. I mean, even for me, my concentration fluctuates. Like, I'm on a retreat, of course, my concentration is really good. But if I'm seeing 10 clients a day, like you, I mean, and I'm talking all day, um, that's that's not going to be the case, most likely. So I think it's just something to look at depending on your circumstances, and you just do the best you can. You know, if it's good, it's sort of like a maxim that I followed over the years. You know, when you have these highs and your concentration strong and your mindfulness is strong and your enlightenment factors are present, you know, exploit those highs. You know, Christmas only comes once a year, right? When you have a period where, you know, your samadhi for whatever reason is very strong, you know, really go as deep as you can, see as much as you can, be as mindful as much as you can. You have the wind to your back during those times. And other times, you know, when it's difficult and you can't seem to focus and you can't seem to get collected, you know, you revisit the fundamentals and you see if where your equanimity is at, where your moment to moment mindfulness is at, where your level of acceptance is at. Those are more important than how well you do on your next retreat with the 6 hours that you have, right? What's more important is the wisdom, the learning and the wisdom and the opening is more important than what happens. The openness, excuse me. Yeah, what happens isn't important, you know, whether you enter a state of concentration this deep or that deep, or whether you enter access concentration or hit jhana or whatever. And the reason I say that they're not particularly important is because when the conditions change and you get busy, your concentration decays. So when it's high, when it's present, when the wind is there and the concentration is growing, um, make sure that you're deriving the wisdom from that you're learning from it, as opposed to, you know, just experiencing some cool thing or whatever. Yeah, so yeah. Also, you know, when you're going through a lot, it's difficult to be collected. You know, when a lot is happening spiritually, when a lot is happening in your practice, it's not easy to be focused. You kind of just have to endure what you're going through. And
Thank you.
when you pass through the rough, it's easy to become collected again. Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Stephen, hey.
I know you touched on this before, but maybe you could just do a little review again about the best way, most effective way to listen for and actually be in touch with higher guidance. Again, you've talked about it numerous times, but the most direct way.
I think the most direct and the most immediate way is that the higher guidance appears as the voice of conscience, and not in the puritanical sense, but in the sense that when there's a little impulse inside that is always inclining us towards the good and the wholesome and away from the unwholesome, away from things that make us lost, that will cause confusion and suffering. So the very direct way or the most accessible way that pretty much anyone can do is uh, to notice the communication that's already happening, to notice those intuitive impulses that are already happening, because they're happening. It's just that they either go unacknowledged or they're not acted upon. So the thing with the guidance is to clarify guidance or to receive more guidance. One has to act on it. It's kind of like if I'm attempting to lead you in a certain direction, I have to lead you through 10 steps. I'm not going to give you step 2 if you don't execute step 1. So it's like that uh, with guidance as well. One of the ways to get more of it is to actually do the things that you're guided towards. So an example is an example of the discernment of this with impulses is that you may get an impulse to stop watching videos and meditate. And it's like, stop watching this video, meditate for an hour. You like have that impulse come up. And initially you're like, yeah, okay, I'll go do that. But then a second voice comes up and that voice says, it doesn't matter. Like, what do you need to meditate for? It's already 9 p.m. You're gonna lose sleep. And then you keep watching the video. And then the third thing comes up, which is that you forget that you even got the first impulse. So you see, like, it's actually happening a lot more than we think. But we're not acting on it, and then we forget it pretty readily. So to see the signs, this whole thing, read the signs or heed the signs. To heed the signs or to heed the guidance is one, to see it, and then two, to act on it. And it doesn't require any, you don't have to do any special technique. What's happening is that the guidance often appears in your own voice. So you think it's you, or you think it's coming from your ordinary sense of self. Mm. Yeah, so that's one way. It's a common there's a saying about this knowledge and conversation, or this communion with guidance or with intuition, and they say there's you can it's often explained as an experience, but the truth of it is that it's a state. Like it's an actual state of communion, where in that state or in that recognition you notice and receive the impulses from the higher will. So the way to receive them or the way to acknowledge them also is the clearer your mind is, the less the five hindrances have a hold on you. So the less doubt you have, the less restlessness you have, the less anxiety, the lower the afflictions are, and the lower the uh, yeah, you can see all those things as turbulence. Turbulence in the mind is very, it's like this. When there's a lot of turbulence, you can't see very clearly, you can't perceive very clearly. Even if you do perceive, you doubt it. So you are getting intuitive impulses and you are getting intuitive guidance every day. But the reason that we may not be hearing it so clearly or perceiving it so clearly is because our vessel is murky, or it's chaotic, it's turbulent. So an example, notice how if you're if you're upset, or if you're in a particularly stressful, difficult period of your life, um, there can be this greater sense of loss and confusion. You don't really know what to do. You can't really sense your intuition anymore, and it's just because the waters are murky. So if you want to um, hear the inner voice or hear the intuitive guidance to a better degree, you clear the waters. Yeah, you look at what's actually making it unclear, and um, you work with it from there. Yeah. So whatever is causing the murkiness or the lack of clarity, you look at those factors and you begin to work on them, and then things get clearer and the intuition gets clearer, and like you start to have the sense that you know what to do, or you know what needs to happen next because you're clear. Yeah. It's like because it's guidance, it's a purification thing. Hmm. When our emotions are all over the place, it's very difficult to come to clarity and come to an intuitive understanding or a felt sense of things. Why? Because the feelings are so turbulent. If the emotions and the internal state is up and down like this, very difficult to get conviction, very difficult to get confidence, very difficult to have equanimity, very difficult to be still enough, open enough, receptive enough to receive even one just complete sentence from higher self or from guidance. Because what can happen is if you're like this, you can start to feel something's coming through, but then your conceptual mind jumps in. It starts to taint the message or taint the intuition. To hear and to know very clearly, um, the ego is to be surrendered. Like the more out of the way you are, the more apparent and evident it is. The whole quote, "Let thine will be done." It means that to ascertain and receive the higher will, the lower will is surrendered. So sometimes when you give up what it is that you want or what it is that you think is right, or what it is that you think must be done. When you abandon that, you surrender that. It's possible to be shown or to have emerge um, the gem that is coming from above, or the gem that is coming from within, not from your sense of self, not from your ego, but from guidance. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
1 second, I'm gonna get the charger. Anybody else?
Can I ask a quick follow-up to Stephen's question that also uh, follows on mine around concentration?
Yeah, yeah. Was there someone else who was gonna say something? I thought I heard a lady's voice.
That's okay. I can wait. I can wait.
Okay.
Yeah, just quickly, Ryan, if you could, uh, so maybe I'm parsing it too much. Stephen always emphasizes concentration, and what this higher self sort of calling or instruction seems like it's more vipassana or wisdom based. Um, I mean, what do you recommend? Because I'm finding that different insights are popping off, and higher self is more online, but Stephen keeps and I get it. It's part of, like you said, the the tradition he's coming out of. But I can get lost in these insights and following higher self calling. Um,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, is there a danger in which, like you said, purification? So the concentration, the effort and concentration, uh, on the one hand, can maybe promote this sort of purification, this collectiveness of consciousness, cohering of it. Uh, yeah. So can you say more about that? Because I'm getting pulled into the wisdom vipassana aspects.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my depth psychological sort of orientation, insight is easy. But yeah, and I hear what you're saying. It helps me to hear to relax, and I don't have to again grasp. But I am afraid that if I don't have the concentration and the discipline, that I will go off into the astral realms.
Yeah. And the question in this, Maggie asked who's Stephen. So David's talking about a Theravada and a Zen teacher named Stephen Snyder. He wrote a book called Practicing the Jhanas, and I think another one he did is Demystifying Awakening. So Stephen's jhana or deep meditative states expert. Sorry, I'm trying to make the camera adjust. Okay. Yeah, so well, it just depends what you're trying to do. Like if jhana is really your goal, and you have a 2-week jhana retreat in like 3 months, then you don't want to do anything besides what is being instructed in preparation for that retreat and for your goal. But if you're, if you don't have that on the map and your goal is just awakening, then the driver the driver of the awakening, or the driver of this process in many regards, is this hidden, this higher self that we're talking about, or this guidance that we're talking about. So yeah, it just depends on what you're trying to do, because if jhana really is your goal, then you want to approach practice like in the way that you're not seeing anything else but the goal and but deeper concentration. But if it's more like you're doing that practice so you could experience the benefits of purification of mind, then that's a different goal. Because what happens with purification of mind and with getting more collected and letting go and proceeding in this way is that the intuitive guidance gets clearer. Like, as you deepen your collectedness, your turbulence is down. And when your turbulence is down, you experience more guidance. So it's normal for it to come up, or it's normal for those impulses to get clearer as your mind becomes more purified. Yeah.
That helps. Thank you so much.
Nicola?
Yeah. So this is a bit of a practical question, really, I suppose. So there's a lot of practice going on here in inquiry, and the practice or being with is sort of the main practice is moment by moment. So whatever I'm doing, if it's working or eating, and it's to keep relax into whatever's happening, whatever's there, and also keeping a lot of attention on with the body at the same time. So like a wider lens of holding the body in that. And then an inquiry, and then which is the question that I've been with for some time, is just, what is this? Any feedback on that would be great. But the practical question is, I don't know if you experience this, but I seem to be getting more forgetful. And in life, like thinking it was Monday when it was Sunday, and going to work, and I don't know whether it's age, it's probably some of that, but has that been anything that's happened in your experience? So it's almost like the deeper I go, being aware, the more I'm just not quite with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely normal. Yeah, it's like when you do a lot of meditation, you could see it like this: the parts of your system that are related to not being in time get activated. And so it can make managing time and managing the material dimension more difficult. It's often a joke that meditators and yogis, they're like non-functional people. Like they can't get anything done. And it's because of this. Like when you sit, you meditate a lot, it's like your crown chakra gets really big, but your root center that's rooted to the earth and rooted to orientation and time and motivation and all these things that are very normal for most people, that can become obscured because now your focus is somewhere else. right? Your focus is on practice. Your focus is on awareness. It's not on, mm, it's not on the material things, and it's not on events that need to occur. Like your priority is not that. So of course it's normal to have this. But specifically, um, I remember an article I looked at recently, so I'd have to like find it and send it to you. But it's common for memory issues to occur with either practice or awakening. But
Mm.
of course, age could be the factor too. So you'd
No, I
have to
think
look at it more precisely than what I'm saying.
no, it's, I just want, and also, because also the other thing that's being affected for sure is sleep. So I don't get as much sleep, um, especially because I tend to do, practice right when I'm going to sleep. That's another, so it's, but definitely there's not as much sleep happening either.
Mm-mm-mm. Well, how much are you practicing every day? Is it like more than an hour or two?
No, not formally, it's not more than that, but it's like I said, it's like everything I'm doing is I'm bringing it in as a practice. So if I'm washing the dishes, if I'm working, it's all um
Continuous.
I'm just bringing it in, bringing it, so it's all happening as best, obviously there's forgetting, but there's a lot of just being with in that same sort of relaxing, or you could call it surrendering into what is happening. And then also at some point when it seems to be the right point, I'm not sure when I can say much about that, then I'll switch into inquiry. And
Mm, mm,
it seems to just happen organically, that it seems to be a good point where it's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And so then that will happen for a while, and then that's just awareness.
yeah. So, um, when I was doing a lot of inquiry, I also had sleep. I also had sleep problems.
Mm.
So it's just the level of intensity that is going into it can cause this kind of stuff when you're being aware, when you're being mindful from one moment to the next, like during your day. How much effort would you say you're applying?
No,
Is it
it's
like a lot of effort or?
no, it's pretty effort, like, so it's not effort driven at all.
Mm,
It's very it's all about relaxing with it. So it's not effortful.
mm, mm, mm,
Periodically an inquiry may have a bit of, I might be a bit ardent with it, but not, but mostly it's a lot of just settling into, opening, settling into. So it doesn't feel effortful.
okay. Yeah,
But
so if it,
it's consistent, like it's continuous, but not, so there's persistence, but not effort. That's what I would say about it.
yeah, sure, sure. Good, good. So one thing that you can uh play with or see what happens is, like, let's say I have a 5 minute period where from now for the next 5 minutes, ordinarily I would have awareness of my body, or there would be some kind of inquiry that I'm doing. Um, what you can do is just um, not do anything.
Mm.
Yeah, and see what happens. So instead of directing the mind at this, or instead of directing the mind at the body, you just really release any action and see what opens as a result of that. That may that may or may not have an effect on your sleep. But the thing with the sleep is Steven Snyder is a good example of this. He said, and he said this 20 years ago, so he was probably in his like late 40s at the time. But he said like, yeah, if I meditate a lot, I don't sleep more than 4 hours a night, 3 hours a night.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Yeah.
could just be a byproduct of that. May not necessarily be healthy, so you have to address it from that angle or adapt to your conditions. But it is normal that if you're mindful quite a bit compared to the ordinary person,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, sleep has never
kind
been
of stuff
a
can happen.
strong suit of mine anyway, but
Yeah, yeah,
so there's that aspect of it. And but you know, it's like my teacher, Ajahn Suchito, he's the Thai monk,
right.
Thai Forest monk. He was saying to us one time on a retreat that, you know, to sleep 3 or 4, he only really sleeps 3 or 4 hours a night. You know, 4 hours. You know, a lot of the monastics, at least in that tradition, that's kind of what they sleep, because they are
Yep.
doing continuous practice, even when in service, it's practice. So.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you enter these, if you touch nimittas or you enter, deep states of meditation, the purity or the level of collectedness from those, the body just finds itself waking up earlier than it ordinarily would. And it happens to me too. So I'm only 32, but if I meditate 6 hours a day or 4 hours a day, or if I enter some, for example, if I enter cessation, I might not sleep that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just remembered something, which is probably part of it. A lot of PT, do you call it that? Rapture.
Piti is like rapture. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That happens a lot. Um, Even just I could be driving or doing the dishes and just being opening, and then PD comes up. And so I'm wondering, that can be a bit of an excitable energy. It doesn't feel like that. It feels quite tranquil. It's
Yeah.
just that inner smile that starts off in my belly and it comes up and it's on my face, and I'm not smiling. It's just what happens, and it happens frequently to me through the day. So even though it doesn't feel excitable, that might be a contributing factor too. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like if you can remember the last time you were so excited for something that you couldn't sleep very well.
Mm.
For some of us, that may have been a long time ago. But the last time, last time there was something that was going to happen tomorrow, you were so excited you couldn't sleep very well. So it's like that when you have a lot of rapture or some of these enlightenment factors, they show up and they're very strong. It could disrupt. It's like it disrupts the ordinary rhythm that your body is on.
Yeah.
The best way to look at it. If your body is used to this level of mindfulness, this level of turbulence and this amount of sleep, and that's just like the normal thing for your system. If you inject 6 hours of mindfulness, 2 hours of piti, and an hour of equanimity, yeah, we shouldn't be surprised if there's an adjustment period or if things change.
Yeah. True enough.
It's like it's normal. It's normal. You meditate a lot. You don't feel like eating. You don't feel like sleeping. Your appetite goes down.
Hmm.
You're not able to manage. You're not able to navigate time as well. These are notice how these are all. It's like the attention from the external world is being drawn back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Someone asked what is piti. So piti is the Pali word for rapture. So it's it's called a jhana, or a concentration factor. It means that when your mind becomes collected, or you enter a refined state in meditation, it's normal for high levels of happiness to occur. So usually when we experience happiness, it's like our mind makes contact with something, or it gets what it wants and experiences happiness for a little bit. But piti is it's happiness that is born of letting go, or happiness born of making contact with a deeper stage of meditation, a deeper stage of purification. And when your mind makes contact with it, when it touches that, it experiences rapture. So like it's happiness, but to the point of rapture. So you feel like really, really happy. And it can reach such an extent that you feel like you're exploding. You're exploding with happiness. You're exploding with happiness, or it's so much happiness you don't know what to do about it, or it's so much happiness that it stops your mind. Like the happiness is so firm. It's so in your face. It's so overwhelming. It's so powerful that it silences thought. That's rapture. So you can get degrees of it, more or less of it, blips of it. Sometimes you get a little bit of happiness that is more refined than usual. Other times, if you're meditating a lot, or you're deepening with the meditation object, the happiness becomes like this, can become like this geyser. The legendary bliss of Ben. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, or you just saw that in the chat, there's an old student named Ben who's like, it's like a kid. He's like 23 or something, and he has this unique side effect for whatever reason in his inquiry practice. He experiences a lot of bliss, and previously it was like intoxicating levels of bliss. So he'd sit in it for hours, or he'd feel it, for days. And bliss is also a concentration factor. So happiness, bliss, equanimity, one-pointedness, these are all factors that arise in the mind, and they can support the mind in deepening its collectedness and deepening its concentration. So when you experience rapture, or when you experience bliss in meditation, it helps you turn away from the mundane happiness of objects that you get from objects like food and TV and whatever entertainment. Yeah, so it helps you turn away from those things, and it becomes very clear that this happiness from the purity of mind is really sublime. Sublime is the word. It's miraculous. It's miraculous that you could feel this, or that it's possible to experience this. Yeah. Equanimity, for example, just makes your mind very imperturbable. Like things just don't bother you. Yeah, your mind's like stable like a mountain in the sense that what happens uh, doesn't sway you. Yeah. Yes, Maggie.
And on the other end of things, um, this didn't used to happen to me so much when I would sit at a Zen center. I would be able to prop myself on pillows in two different ways. And then, but sometimes I would sit in a chair. But now I can't really do that very much. The body, it just becomes, an exercise in torture. So, but what'll happen, I don't know if it's the time of day, but I will get a sense of jitteriness in my legs, like especially from the knee down. And it feels so annoying. I mean, it's like distractingly. And I just, like last week, I could only last an hour. And sometimes it doesn't come up at all for several, one of our longer sits, or I do a thing on Sunday morning with another group. But I don't know whether, I'm thinking now you might say, well, get up and walk around or something. But I just feel like I really lose it all when I walk around. And
Right.
like it's like this can't be anything, but I'm willing to try that. So, what's your feedback on that? You might have talked about this other times, but I wasn't there for it.
Mm-mm-mm. So this happens when you're sitting in a chair.
I'm usually sitting on my sofa. And I mean, like I said, I'm almost always in the same place. And yet it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And oh God, it's so, I mean, I think it's like it's jonesing the other way, it's not waiting for a drug, but it just is like, and I don't know whether it's just because I can't relax, there's no, oh, we'll just relax, no, that's not what happens. I'm saying I don't feel like I'm in control of it at all. So, yeah.
I mean, how frequently does it happen? Like once a week?
It's probably a little more than that. But I haven't been like keeping track of that. Yeah, I don't know.
And if you just keep sitting and you endure it, the leg shaking just gets worse.
Yeah. It
Do
doesn't
you
go away.
ever
I mean,
apply your
an hour.
awareness to it?
Yeah. It's screaming at me. I mean, I feel like I am. It's like, well, I go into that and it just, I don't know how to explain it, but maybe I'm not doing enough of that, but it just feels, yeah. It's not as bad as, it's not as bad as pain. I mean, like if it's like, oh, would you rather I poke you in the eye or feel that? It's like, well, no, I'll feel that. But given that nobody's poking me in the eye instead, I don't feel much. I just, I quit.
I would so the first thing to always rule out is if it's some physiological thing, right? But if you know if it's not some physiological thing, there's nothing wrong with your leg,
Right.
then I regard stuff like this as just side effects of meditation. So there were times in my practice where I felt explosions of coldness in my bones, or I felt fire or like fiery pain in different parts of my body. So when the next time this happens, take that particular shaking or that particular whatever is happening in your leg, um, feel very deeply into it and apply awareness to it for as long as you can.
Okay.
Whatever it is, like by applying awareness to it, it's getting cleared, it's unwinding. could be stagnant energy, could be trauma. Especially if applying awareness to it, like it doesn't cause physical pain, but it causes a kind of like psychological pain. Like it feels very uncomfortable to be aware of that feeling, even though it's just leg tremors. You're like, you know, if you're thinking of it logically, why would noticing leg tremors be so difficult?
Mhm.
It's just your leg shaking. Like if it's just your leg shaking, it shouldn't be an issue. But when you apply awareness to it and then you feel this like the sludge coming up, boom, you know that's what you need to focus on.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't actually shake. It just feels like, I guess, kind of like if your leg has gone to sleep, you know, and you don't know that, and then you go to move, and then it comes out of that, right? It goes through this phase of tingliness and stuff, and it was not pleasant. but
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 it's not actually lack of blood circulation, right?
I don't think so. I thought it was happening more later in the day than earlier. Like, because sometimes I sit in the morning, sometimes it's later. And I thought it was more at night, but it happened on Sunday as well. And then it kind of dissipated some and I was able to sit longer. But anyway, so I guess it's just a matter of just, yeah, like you say, it's hard not to have the thoughts of, I wish this would stop. Oh,
Mm.
did I just lose you? Oh no, I looked absolutely. I just tapped on something. But yeah, I guess that's just, I'll do that as much as I can, and then I might walk around and then try to sit again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it's not actually cut off blood circulation, it's just there's weird physiological stuff that happens in meditation. It's just a thing. Like some
Okay.
people get like this, like their throat starts vibrating. Like it doesn't make any sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's part of the process. You feel it to the best of your ability. You feel it for as long as you can. And
Yeah.
then when you can't bear it anymore, you can't bear it. You walk around, whatever. Then you just come back to it. Gradually over time, the intensity becomes less and the energy starts to move.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we can sit in silence for a little bit, like 15 minutes, and then if you already had it on your schedule to sit longer, you know, by all means, go ahead. But we can just begin our silent period now before we end.